How much does the quality of writing impact the conversion rate of blog posts? It actually turns out that it matters a lot more than we initially even thought it did.
The data we're going to show is for multiple clients now, updated the pieces that are already ranking, and we increase the conversion rate. And we'll show some that is somewhat significant. 0.6 to 6.3 again is 10x. It is massive. I myself surprised by this. Until this past year where we started to get a lot of these results, I thought for sure the writing and sales copy is important.
Not this important though. On the low end, we're seeing like a 66% increase. And on the high end, 950% increase. How much does the quality of writing impact the conversion rate of blog posts? It actually turns out that it matters a lot more than we initially even thought it did. And in this video, we want to talk through two different clients. One is more recent, one that we've had for a long time. The first one, we had started updating blog posts to increase the ranking position, but on a closer inspection of the pieces, we realized the writing quality could be improved. And even despite some ranking positions not even moving up, we've seen the conversion rate increase just from implementing our GNC writing style. And then the second client we've been working with for a really long time, I think something like almost 4 or 5 years at this point. And after getting results from producing new pieces, they asked us if we could go back and update some old pieces that another agency had written to basically implement our GNC writing process and sell their product better in the pieces. And through that engagement, we also have seen an increase in conversion rate. And so we wanted to record this video just to kind of share our thoughts and what we improved on the writing style, and just to share overall that the writing inside of blog posts really does matter. And I think a lot of people have this misconception that if you just rank for a keyword, you're automatically going to convert people. And just from our data, that's actually not always true. And so I'll open it up to you, Davish, to kind of go into the details here.
Yeah, I want to add some clarity to what you're saying, that people think, I think most people listening will be like, of course writing matters. Everyone has been saying content is king and it matters. But most of the discussion on writing I'm seeing in kind of the content and SEO space that I have seen is everyone is doing it for the purpose of ranking. And that's what you were saying. Is like, they say writing matters in so much as you fulfill the algorithm's demands, you, fulfill search intent, and like you should write to the customer. And I want to just emphasize what Benji said, which is like this critical part. We have, the data we're going to show is for multiple clients now, updated the pieces that are already ranking. And we increase the conversion rate. And we'll show some that is somewhat significant, like increasing the conversion rate significantly.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that too. So it's not the conversion increases aren't because the ranking position moved. So for example, the one piece was at position 5 before, it's still at position 5. Just the number of conversions that we're getting for that piece has increased, and the only variable that changed was the actual writing in the piece and how we sold the product. And we have those examples across a number of different clients where the variable that was changed was the actual writing in the piece, and that is what has led to the conversion rate increase. And so, recently we've gotten to discussions with prospects and existing clients around writing style, about when to sell in pieces, when to not sell in pieces. And people have varying levels of like comfortability with, I don't even know if that's a word, but comfort. They have varying levels of comfort around how much to sell their product in pieces, from the extreme of like, I don't want to be salesy, to kind of where we're at, which is definitely more on we're very comfortable selling products. And the data is just going to go to show that selling the product well and positioning the product well inside pieces really does matter. And on that second client, especially because all of their pieces that were written previously, I think didn't take that approach of selling the product in pieces. They were kind of more top of funnel pieces that were just meant to purely educate. And then when we took this conversion based writing approach and looked at their pieces and added ways to sell the product inside of the piece, we see articles that go from not converting anyone to now seeing articles that are converting prospects. And so it kind of just goes to show that this stuff really does matter. And this is something that we don't really see any content marketers or writers talking about, probably just because they don't have the data to prove things one way or another.
No, not just that. It's because they don't write like this.
True, that too.
Because they do the top of funnel content marketing, which is don't sell. I'm shy about selling. So let's get into it. So as Benji said, just quick summary. Client number one, actually that we're going to look at their data first because we have more data from them. Their data, we have very clear data from them, let's say. They are bought into the GNC process and they tried to sell and did an okay job, and those pieces were converting. But we found that we think that sales copywriting could be better. Client number two is they hired us to do this bottom of funnel stuff and found that our blog posts were converting so much higher than everything else that they had. And they had a ton of content, multiple agencies and in-house content being written. So they said, in addition to your content, can we add on to the engagement and just have you guys update some historical content? And those are the ones that were like traditional, what most people are doing. You are probably, unless you are implementing the grow and convert process, in camp number two, which is content marketing for you and SEO for you is top of funnel stuff where, and you're like, for whatever reason, either shy or you just have been taught, right? There's nothing wrong, but you've just been taught that this is the way content marketing is supposed to be, that you don't sell. So let's look at the first one. So we're going to do data from the first one and we'll do a deep dive into articles in the second. This is a very touchy subject to get client approval to like talk about. And so in order to show an article, you have to show the keyword, talk about who the client is. We're only doing that for the second one. And so we got permission to show certain articles. We felt it was inappropriate to do that and show the exact conversion rates because you're going to see like search volumes and all. It's just not, they're in a competitive space and other competitors could potentially see or be exposed to this. So we're going to save that deep dive for that second client, and we'll show the data only completely anonymized for the first one, so you have no idea who we're talking about, so to protect sort of client privacy. So
should we give some more background on client one too? So client one, I mean, you can show this data, it doesn't really matter while we talk through this, but client one previously had taken our course, engaged us because they were looking for a way to scale up content marketing. And so I think they took our course, tried to implement the process on their own. So identifying bottom of the funnel keywords and doing the writing with then a contractor that they hired internally.
And did a good job, to be perfectly honest.
Exactly. So when we initially engaged with them and we looked at what they were already ranking for, we just kind of felt like it was going to be an uphill battle. And to be honest, it was for the first few months because they had identified a lot of the bottom of the funnel keywords. It's a very specific space where there's only, let's say, a limited number of keywords that we could go after. And so initially we had started identifying new bottom of the funnel keywords and going after those. But then I think a few months into the engagement, we looked at what they were already ranking for, and a lot of those pieces, we felt like we could improve the ranking position for them. And so we came up with this idea of just updating some of the pieces that were already going after some of these high intent keywords for the main purpose just of purely moving that ranking position. So for example, if something was ranking number 5 and we felt like there was no way to move that piece up just with link building, could we relook at the SERP, analyze it, figure out either what sections we needed to add or where the intent mismatch was, and then update the piece? Or for example, something was on page 2 and we never felt like it was going to get to page 1, could we update that piece? In the process of doing that, when the strategist was looking at the writing, she identified, actually, I feel like the overall way that the piece is positioned and the product is positioned could also be improved and
Significantly.
significantly. And so a lot of this data that we're now about to show is coming from now having done 4 months of updating pieces, not only to improve the ranking position, which we've done for a few of those pieces so far. Obviously, there's some work on the link building side that still needs to be done there to keep moving those up. But yeah, also what's improved a lot is the writing, and the data we're going to show is largely just what happens when you improve the writing for the piece.
Yeah, I mean, this one's pretty straightforward. She looked at what the conversion rate was, or no, conversions. This is demos booked, directly attributable to this one piece. So I think this data is from HubSpot, where you can see the first page that they landed on for someone who books a demo for this client. And it was hovering between mostly 1 to 2 demos or 0 from September 2023 to April. And we updated this piece, and it's like the keyword it's ranking for is, again, for this data, since we're showing the conversion data, we're not going to discuss the client or the keyword. It's like the category keyword. It would be like if you sell, a CRM, it'd be like best CRMs or some equivalent of that, right? So it's like it should convert, and it was only converting this much despite ranking. I forget where it was ranking, but it was like
This one's ranking in position 5.
yeah, so middle of page 1. So again, like Benji said, our initial thing was like, well, if it's already converting at position 5, let's try to just improve it from a ranking perspective and get it to position 1. And along the way, our strategist was like, hold up. Actually, now that I'm reading this closely, like this thing, the way they wrote it is not really the most compelling sales copy, was her hypothesis. And it worked completely. Benji, you track the rankings more closely than I do, so I don't know
Yeah,
if
so
that's
this one, the ranking position hasn't moved, which is why I think this one's the most interesting case. Maybe if I were to look in the details, we rank higher on some secondary keywords, but largely for the main keyword, the ranking position hasn't moved. Again, the only variable that's changed here is the writing of the piece.
And you can see the demos booked. I think we published it like last week of April, and May immediately it got 5 demos, which it hadn't done basically for like a year-ish before that. It only gotten 1, 2, and then it had 3 in 1 month. And then we said, okay, that's fine, but maybe it's an anomaly. Let's see. June 3, which ties the previous high, and we were like, okay, let's see if it'll stay up this high. And this last month, we're recording this video in August, but in July, the last complete month, it got 11 demos. This is like 10x basically the average that it was getting. So we were like, oh my goodness. So we started doing this for other pieces. And if I scroll to the right here, this is now, you're going to have to bear with me. Again, we're protecting kind of client privacy, not showing the URLs or who the piece is. But every row in this spreadsheet is one of the pieces that we've updated. This, and the left column is the demos per month it was averaging before our update. This one that I just showed the graph of is the first row. So if I just take the average of all of these months from September to April, it was averaging about a half a conversion, like 1 demo every 2 months. So 0.6 technically demos a month. And because of this massive month of July having 11, June 3, May 5, the average of those is 6.3. I'm really hoping that that's true, but it's in the spreadsheet. Some astute reader is going to quickly average 11, 3, and 5 and decide whether it's 6.3 or not. It should be. But nonetheless, you can see both visually when I scroll to the left for those of you watching on YouTube, but listening, like 0.6 to 6.3 again is 10x. It is massive. I myself am surprised by this. Like, until this past year where we started to get a lot of these results, I thought for sure the writing and sales copy is important. But I thought like just ranking.
Not this important though.
Right.
Like not like, I mean, I was doing the math on some of this stuff earlier. So like on the low end, we're seeing like a 66% increase. And on the high end, 950% increase.
Yeah.
I didn't think that you could affect how many conversions you get that much just by how the piece is organized, how you position the product in the piece, and all that kind of stuff. I was probably more in the camp of, yeah, if you get a piece to the top of the, like, basically the SERPs, and it's like pretty on topic and it kind of sells your piece well, like, yeah, it's going to do fairly well from a conversion perspective. But I didn't think on top of that, if the writing is follows our process and is kind of top notch in terms of like selling the product in the piece, that you could on top of that now move the conversion rate up even that much more.
Yeah, same. I mean, this idea of it increases by 10x is what we tell clients on our sales call about. Like, that's what I've always said is pain point SEO itself does. In other words, going after bottom of funnel topics. In other words, going after bottom of funnel topics versus top of funnel low buying intent topics. That difference gets you 10x. That instead of ranking for what is content marketing, ranking for content marketing agency will get us 10x the conversion rate, like for a grow and convert type business. You're right. I was with you where I thought, okay, and like how you write and how you sell the product could maybe give you, I don't know, like 20% or something like lift. I never really quantified it in my head. But this kind of 10x, I mean, this is basically the left side is what life looks like when you think in your head, yeah, content marketing is not really working for me. And the right side is what you think when you're like, we're killing it in content. Like, it's like on versus off. And the thing is, and again, like, we're not going to show the actual pieces of this client because we're showing their numbers in such details. We're keeping them completely anonymous. But like you were saying earlier, if you look at their pieces before, it looks like it should work. It looks like it's exactly as per our product. Like, they're talking about feature by feature, there's screenshots or whatever. But when our content strategist, who's very experienced, worked to grow and convert for a long time, when she looked at it, she said, I was like, are you sure? I remember having this discussion with her, and she was like, David, she's like, look at this. It looks like it should work, but if you really sit down and think about the copy, and if get yourself in the prospect's like shoes, there's just, the story isn't quite there. Like, it's not compelling the way they're comparing features. And then our content strategists and writers, they get really into the detail of how our clients' products stack up against competitors because they have to in order to write these pieces. If you know our pain point SEO methodology, we have like comparison and alternatives is like a key part of our piece, but even category keywords, like the example I use, best CRM, in order to rank for that, like that keyword demands you list a bunch of CRMs. I haven't even Googled this, but you could Google it now and I guarantee you it's like list after list, meaning to rank for those keywords, you need to be able to discuss multiple options in that category, that product category. And so our writers and strategists get really into understanding these different options and how our clients' products stack up. So their radar for, hold on, when you talk about this feature this way, when you talk about this benefit this way, that actually it's not persuasive because everyone else does. Or actually, this other really famous competitor in the space has that feature or is better in that respect. Or they're talking about it in this way, which I think is more compelling. Like, they're like in those details, and their antenna for their like sense of taste for like, whoa, like this is compelling and this is how everyone else talks to it, is really refined when they get into an account. So she was spot on this, where she was like, yeah, it's not working. And you see this for other pieces. So the first row is the graph on the left, but after that, 0.5 before, demos per month, 2.0 after. The next one equals so far. The next one, a slight increase from 0.3 to 0.5. This one, I think we don't have data yet because we just published it. This one goes from averaging about 1 demo before to 4. That's another like multiple fold increase, 0.8 to 2, 0.2 to 2, which is another 10x increase. Like, if you're getting 0.2 demos a month, it means it's taking you 5 months to get 1 demo from the piece. That's like, this piece is not really converting. If you get 2 demos a month, you're like, yeah, this piece really converts. I want to maintain that ranking. So that is the data from one client. Now we got
But before we move on, I actually think what people might find interesting too is then, like, what was the strategy around identifying the pieces that we would update?
yeah, go
Because
ahead. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we were looking at, so initially we were looking at it through the lens of how could we move a piece from position 5 to 1 to get more
Yeah, we thought the
conversions.
conversion rate was the conversion rate. We were all like, okay, like for whatever reason, and this for this client, like it doesn't really, there's not that many demos, but like they're converting somewhat. So let's just like move them up to get more.
So what we did in the very beginning when we initially had the hypothesis around let's update pieces to improve ranking position and that will yield more conversions overall. We weren't thinking about impacting the conversion rate at all. But what we did is we looked at the last, I think, like 13 or 15 months of data, and we were looking at which pieces have shown to convert in the past, and then where are they currently ranking in the search results. And what we were looking for is pieces that have shown to convert, so they have one or more demos associated with them. And then obviously we were looking for the highest converting pieces. So which are the pieces that have the most demos associated to them and that currently don't rank in those top 3 spots. And those were the priorities for us. And so we organized a spreadsheet like that. And then we basically just prioritized by the highest converting pieces that don't rank in those top 3 spots. And that when we analyzed the SERP, we felt like there was something that we could change in the piece to get it to rank higher. And that was what we proposed to the client then was all those pieces that had those combinations, and we've just kind of worked our way down the list. And so
Which, by the way, that's a perfectly fine approach to do regardless of conversion rate.
for sure.
Like, like even if you have nothing to improve in the sales copy, like we're talking about, like you should do that. If it's already converting and it's been stuck at position five is pretty good for a lot of keywords. It's really good. But if it's stuck there, try to increase it because you know that that thing is converting well. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I would just say, see we have a whole piece with David on updating, and we kind of walk through the same methodology of putting everything into a spreadsheet, all your conversion data, and that will help you identify these opportunities of pieces to update. Like without having this conversion data, you're just kind of looking at the stuff blindly. Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to see like there'd be pieces in there that you'd be updating that maybe have never converted that you're spending time and effort on. And that's a good segue then though into this next client who that was the case when we started updating where they gave us some pieces that have never ever converted in the past. From all their conversion data, a piece shows 0 conversions. And now we're able to see conversions come from that piece from updating the piece and the writing in it, not only improving the ranking position.
Yeah, so I'm going to show a few examples here, and the takeaway from all of these is we sold the client's product in this case. So this is what we were saying at the beginning. The first client, they actually sold their product. It just wasn't done kind of in the way that we would do it, and it wasn't done to like the best way, really. And so it converted, but it didn't convert as high as it could as per the data we just showed. In this case, this client's doing a problem, has a problem that I think is far more typical than the first client. Most people don't even sell at all. And so in this case, there was tons of kind of not pure grow and convert style bottom of funnel pain point SEO keywords. Like we are doing that for them and we have been for years. But they had keywords and they also had a lot of pages and landing pages on our marketing site going after those kind of bottom of funnel keywords. But they had a lot of content written by other agencies or in-house teams, whatever, historically, that were going after what we would maybe loosely call mid to top of funnel. So our process of identifying these was to actually start on where you left off, Benji, is we did the same thing on this account, me and the writer that it does this. We looked at post by post on the blog, conversions, total conversions, traffic, and therefore conversion rate. And we actually started this the same way as the second client, where we looked at conversion rate first and said, what are the highest converting, or maybe total conversions, one of the two. And we said, what are the highest converting posts already? And then we looked we clicked into them and said, are they actually doing a good job of selling? Because we figured if it's already converting, we know at least that keyword has high conversion intent. Like, cause like there's some keywords that it's like, look, regardless of how much you try to sell your client's product, is not going to convert that well because like there's just no intent. So we wanted to not waste time on those initially. We could make a stab at those later, but like start with the ones that are already converting and then look at it and say, does this sell the client's product and does it do it well? Could we do it better? So I'm going to give, and then we started moving on to other pieces, many of which just straight up when we clicked into it, it had like no section talking about the client's product, and yet it still had a few, like a trickle of conversions. That's the sign of a ripe opportunity. If you're literally getting customers without selling your product, imagine what would happen if you sold your product. It means that keyword has buying intent. So I'm going to show a few examples for various like different types of keywords for them. So example number 1 is a piece we're literally working on, draft : So the client, by the way, is ServiceTitan. They are an absolute industry leader, behemoth, like awesome company. And like, yes, they're our client, so maybe I'm biased, but like, so be it. In their space, which is like operating software for home service businesses, electricians, plumbers, people that come to homes or commercial establishments to work on HVAC, electrical, plumbing, etc. And they do a bunch of others. This is the software that kind of runs their whole business. You can invoice on it. You can like get quotes on it. It will like text the client and customer and say, we're, the technician's 15 minutes from your house. It'll book calls. It'll do all kinds of stuff, right? It's like all encompassing software. Let's just look at the original piece. This is pre-update to get a sense of it. First, let's analyze the intent of it. Electrician interview questions. So what is that? That is definitely mid, or we would even probably call it top of funnel. This is the keyword they're going after. Most people Googling, like who's Googling this, they're not obviously asking for like field service software, which is kind of one of the names of the category of this space at all. They are likely hiring electricians. And maybe some of the intent is actually electricians studying for an interview. But they are a manager. We're presuming some fraction of the people are manager or owner of an electrician business where they hire electricians to run their business as technicians, right? And so we figure, and ServiceTitan has product features around making the life of electricians better. So we thought, okay, is there a way to tie in the product to this? And we figured, okay, yeah, like if you're hiring an electrician, you're also going to need to do payroll for them. We do that, right? Once you hire them, maybe because you're hiring, you're in the mindset of expanding. And so like the idea of also improving your operational software is like, you're like maybe open to it. And you can also argue that having a business that takes a lot of the grunt work off of your electrician and your technician's plates, like which ServiceTitan does. So instead of asking your technicians to use paper invoices, it can automatically invoice on an iPad when they're in the field. Instead of having them to like manually deal with what their routes are, it can automatically push to their phone, like here are the next stops that you have to get to, etc. We thought you could say, hey, like that's a compelling way to say like your life would be good as an electrician with our company. So like that's like step number 1. And I spent a lot of time on it, but like that's kind of the level of extent that you need to be thinking about this. If you can't think of a way to tie in your product to the keyword, you might, not necessarily, but you might want to consider moving on because maybe that keyword has no possible way of converting. So with this in mind, let's just look at it. There's an intro, and then there's all these actual interview questions. This is important. This is literally what they Googled. So like, yes, this has nothing to do with selling and conversions, but like you need this to fulfill the search intent. So there's, maybe we can make some tweaks to that section, but whatever. Another category of interview questions. We keep going, right? And you see here, this is the existing post. We haven't updated this. Their way of trying to tie in the product. These are product screenshots from ServiceTitan. And so it's in this question of like, a question you can ask an electrician in a job interview, give an example where you turned an unhappy customer into a satisfied customer. And the way they tied it in in my opinion, is not the best way to sell the software to the owner who is asking these questions. It says like, you know, look for electricians that are emphasizing like good customer service, blah, blah, blah. And so, and it says like bonus points for candidates who are familiar with customer experience software. But it's like, come on, like no one in this interview question is going to be like, and by the way, I turned an unhappy customer into a satisfied customer by using customer experience software. It's just like kind of a way to like mention this, but it's not like the most compelling way, right? And then there's another set of interview questions. We're just going to scroll to the bottom, and then FAQ. Notice what's missing. There's no dedicated section selling ServiceTitan or even attempting to tie it in. Now, look at our proposed draft. Red is the stuff we're going to add in. Okay? So yes, there's like tweaks to the intro, etc., that our writer Susie, that you can see, does it. But what I want to scroll to is, look at this. There's no red here. We're largely not touching this. This is just the list of questions that you can ask if you're interviewing an electrician to join your company. There's not much to do there. It's fulfilling search intent. But if we get to the bottom now, look at her proposed addition. This is just at an outline stage. She's proposing an entire H2 section, how ServiceTitan can help attract best electricians, and she's proposing like, you know, what we're going to say inside it. The details of this are not particularly important, but what I want to highlight is before, right now, the current piece makes no attempt to tie in ServiceTitan. And what we are going to do on this piece is say, now, here is how field service software can help electricians work more efficiently. Here from their perspective is how like it can make their life better. So you can recruit the best electricians to your company better if you have ServiceTitan. Will that work? I don't know. Let's see. But this is maybe like the 100th or more update we've done for them. And we have many, many examples of this working like gangbusters. And like, I shouldn't have to sell that this is that effective. Think about what we're talking about if you just zoom out. We have content that the target customer could be Googling their way towards. Otherwise, why would have written it, right? And previously, it didn't tie in the product to the pain point associated with what they're Googling. It didn't sell the product at all. We are now selling the product by tying it into the thing they Googled. Like, shouldn't that convert? Yes, it should, and it does. And I'll show another example. This is an example where it literally, I have data showing that it increases conversion rate, or it increased conversion rate pretty significantly, which is a competitor keyword. So as per Painpoint SEO, this is like one of the categories, and in their case, they have Home Advisor Competitors was a blog post. And what we did, again, if we scroll to like the bottom, is we added a whole section, sort of revamped the section selling ServiceTitan in detail. A very common problem we see if people, even in these comparison keywords, this versus that, or your competitor's name, alternatives, or whatever, or in this case, competitor's name space competitors, is they feel uncomfortable or too shy to do a deep dive on their own piece. They try to write that from a position of neutrality, like they're CNET or Wirecutter. Like they're trying to write that as like, we evaluated all of these software products or these physical products or whatever, and like, here is our take or whatever. And so they feel like they need to give the same number of screen real estate to their company and their product as much as the others. Some people so feel uncomfortable that it would be disingenuous to put their product first on the list, that they like shove it down to the bottom. That will kill your conversion rate. And the before and after data, again, we're not going to show it for this one in detail, but I just wanted to say this one did convert way better afterwards. Shows that you should not be shy. And here's why. A lot of people would think, why would you include this huge ServiceTitan section? Like, doesn't it come across as like a little bit kind of, I don't know what the word is, but
Biased.
like, yeah, biased. Like they're on, like ServiceTitan is calling themselves the best. My answer is, one, you don't actually have to call yourself the best. You can just say, we're a competitor and we're really proud of how we designed our product and we think it's really helpful, and like, let's walk through it. And just if you walk through it in a really compelling way, And you don't have to trash competitors, none of that. You just have to say, like, this is why we've designed it in a certain way. We're like, we think this is really working. Like, customers really love this product, whatever, whatever. It will sell. And the second reason is the reader is not stupid. Like, they know they're on your website. Look at how ServiceTitan's blog is, like, formatted. This is how basically everyone's blog is formatted. You know you're on ServiceTitan's thing. Why try to feign neutrality? Why try to pretend you're some third-party neutral site? Just be like, we're Service.
It's almost like if they called a salesperson, asked them to give them a pitch about the product, and then they're like, oh, all the other competitors are pretty good. Here's like the feature differences and that kind of stuff. And then they just never pitched why they're the best at the end of the call.
Yeah, it'd be weird.
It's the same thing. I don't get why people think blog posts are so much different. If you're educating the customer on a topic, obviously you're going to have a unique point of view. Like this whole video that we're doing right now. Sure, it's self-serving towards our process, but we're educating people on something that we've learned that we do differently than everyone else. And I think it's the same thing in these blog posts. Like every company has their own unique perspective on a topic, and you should be able to communicate that without feeling bad about selling yourself or communicating your own learnings that are different than everyone else. And I think you're right. Like people have this like, oh, we can't say that from a brand point of view because it'll make us look bad, or like it's too salesy, like it's gonna make us look bad. But it's like, no, like people are on your site, they want your point of view, like
right.
and give it to them. Like and I feel like so many marketers are afraid of doing this, or so many writers are afraid of doing this. But time and time again, this is what we've seen worked, and we've never really seen people be like, oh, this is way too salesy, I'm never going to this site again, or like I'm never communicating with this brand again because they said this in their blog post. It's just like, no, I think people do expect that.
In particular, if you're Googling for a bottom of funnel phrase. So if you're already Googling Home Advisor competitors, you want to be sold to. Like your problem, like when you're that bottom of funnel, the pain point is that you're looking for software, right? So if you like show up at a Toyota dealership, you want them to sell you the Toyota. Like give me your best pitch. I'm not stupid. I can compare to Honda on the side myself, right? You don't need to pretend to be neutral. Just like, give me your best pitch. I will decide. And so that's these bottom of funnel keywords. So for a bottom of funnel keyword to not have a really thorough, compelling section on ServiceTitan when they're Googling for certain competitors is a waste. So like the two comparisons here, electrician interview questions, way up funnel. There's no intent to be buying. So you need to sell the product in a much more tactful way. Maybe you sell only certain features of it that relate to hiring electricians or technicians. It needs to be whatever. And it's a bit of a bet. It may convert, it may not convert that well, whatever. But like our point of updating this is if you're not making any attempt to get a sale from a mid-funnel, top-of-funnel keyword like electrician interviews questions, what is it even doing? Then it's just pure top of the funnel, which is like, okay, it's there because we just want to like be top of mind or whatever. Those are just basically not going to convert long-term. Top of funnel has its purposes, don't get me wrong, but like it's not going to convert immediately as much. So like make an attempt to do it, and it has to be tactful. Then the other side of the spectrum is a total bottom of funnel keyword like competitor. There it's like, if you're being shy, like really what are you doing? Like that is a real waste. Because like if you went through the trouble of ranking for this, or writing it or whatever, they're literally looking for products. They're wanting you to clarify differences. Just give them your best sales pitch. Do not be shy. Do not. An easy like general rule, like a litmus test of if you're doing a good job is, are you is there the same amount of real estate or words or screen space for your product as everyone else? If the answer is yes, you're not selling it well enough. I will fight anyone about this. I have had arguments as recently as a couple months ago with some people who do the grow and convert process saying like, your stuff was too salesy. I'm like, yeah, but you're not measuring that as much as us then. Because like we have the before and after data. So, like, you can be subjective and say you don't want to be salesy. That's your brand choice. It's a brand choice that basically is wasting this marketing channel. Even if it's converting, it's not converting as well as it can.
Speaking of before and after data, I know we said we're not going to share like conversion data for specific pieces. Do we just have a general sense of how many conversions total those pieces got before and after? And I know like even the increases might not seem drastic because a lot of these are top of funnel pieces that historically really didn't convert. And so I wouldn't expect something to go from 0 to now 100 conversions. But just, I think it's even beneficial for people to know, like, even if these updates can yield 100 more demos and one of them leads to $100,000 contract, like it can be pretty meaningful.
Yeah, even way less than 100. Yeah, I'll just give this one example. You're right. It's this one is typically in single digits. So because these are like a lot of them are not bottom of funnel, but even some of them that are like the so I actually should clarify. Home Advisor is not a direct competitor of Service Titan. It's like a side thing. It's not really a competitor. Home Advisor is a place where it's I think it's like
Isn't
Thumbtack
it? Yeah,
and
I was gonna
all.
say, isn't it like Yelp for this space essentially? It's like a
Yeah,
review
so
site or something like that.
right. So it's places like HVAC, electrical, and plumbing, like businesses would like advertised. It's not Service Titan. Service Titan is like the software they would use to run their business. But Service Titan has marketing features. So if I actually share the screen again, this is all a prelude to answer your question of the number of conversions. Let me just answer your question quickly so we don't get lost on it. This, from what we were seeing, I think for a year or two, literally we saw zero directly attributable first or last touch conversions from it. And we thought, okay, like either this is just not going to work where we go after these kind of like not real competitors, like they yeah, like you said, Yelp, Home Advisor, Thumbtack, where these people would advertise. Either this is just not something that's going to lead to conversions, or we need to make a really good attempt at it and see if it converted. And in the few months after we published that I had the data for, we had seen 3 demos. I wasn't ready to do this because I was planning on not showing any data for Service Titan, but I forget how many months it was that we had it.
I
But
mean,
like it went from
that's still interesting though. I mean,
yeah, it
you're
went from
going
like
from zero,
nothing in like over
zero
a year
and
to
demos,
some.
and we know for this client, demos are not.
Sorry, I said demos, just qualified like MQL
Yeah,
leads, which they define in a
I
very
was gonna
specific
say
way.
that. I was gonna say for Service Titan, they have a very specific definition
Yeah, yeah,
on leads, and so or like demos, and so not all demos are good for them, and so these are marketing qualified demos that came from this piece, which is pretty
yeah.
significant for them.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Like you went from nothing to like, yes, there is something. And so that's what I was saying is like the way we sold it actually is we actually had to be tactful again. So I apologize. Before I said the electrical interview questions was top of funnel, this is actually still kind of mid funnel because it's not a direct competitor. But you can see here, it's like Home Advisor helps them like market because you can buy ads and say like hire us in your city or whatever. And so here
Interesting.
immediately,
I do see the way that you positioned it because
yeah, so we
you're
say,
saying
look,
Home Advisor, you would go there to basically buy ad space, or just your entire goal is to get more leads essentially as the
right.
business owner.
And so we're like, that's fine. And here are other competitors and places where you can do it. There's a site called Porch where you can buy ads, as like yeah, Thumbtack where you can buy ads. And this is just not House. This is just not a place where Service Titan competes. So we're fine. Like Thumbtack is a place where you find like plumbers and stuff. So like you can that's a competitor to Home Advisor. And then even like Google Local Service. Then we say, now, beyond that, yes, you can buy ads or try to like increase your reviews and ratings on all of these sites where people look for plumbers, HVAC, electrician. But have you thought about measuring the ROI of your marketing? How are you doing that? Service Titan can help. Do you have a systematic way to book calls directly from them? Service Titan can help. And then there's more detail later where we're like, and Service Titan is really great at doing that directly from Google Ads. How are you managing your appointments? What is your conversion rate afterwards there? And then what about other marketing channels? Instead of only chasing new customers, are you maximizing the revenue you can get from existing customers? They're the ones most likely to do it. Email marketing is a great way. Like we can automate email marketing, or like we can run, ServiceTitan can run your email marketing, or even help you do like direct mail cards. And I think there's later where it's like, we can help you get better reviews and more reviews. So like there's stuff in ServiceTitan where it's like, oh, you had this competitor, and the technician can click one button and it's like, it sends a text asking them to review them on whatever platform they found it on. So like it's semi-related, right? So if you're like looking to, advertise or find places like Porch, like Thumbtack, like HomeAdvisor, you may be open to this, and we sell it in that way. And that was the bet we're taking. And this thing previously converted not at all, because if you don't have this section, and all you're doing is saying, oh, you're looking for HomeAdvisor competitors? How about Porch? How about Thumbtack? You're not going to get sales for ServiceTitan because you didn't even try to sell it. And this is like, I don't want to make sure, like, we had to be really tactful in like asking them for permission to share this. Like a lot of clients, and like thanks to the ServiceTitan team for being willing to, a lot of clients don't want to share this, like, because it's like, well, we don't want to be in this Grow and Convert video saying like the way we're not doing it is good. The thing I want to say is like, so first of all, ServiceTitan kicks ass at SEO with and without us. Second of all, this is like the normal process that everyone talks about. Like you had said something earlier, and I didn't want to interrupt, about like adding value. The reason why people don't do this is because there is this culture that I've said in a million videos where they've been taught that like this is how you're supposed to do content. That it's like uncouth, or like, I don't know, like weird and salesy in like a bad way to sell, and people are going to not trust you. And the whole point of content marketing is just they want HomeAdvisor competitors, just give them Porch and Thumbtack and Angie's List and Houzz, and then they'll consider ServiceTitan really helpful. And later, when they're looking for software to run their business, they'll remember and like you because you were so helpful.
They'll be like, oh, I remember that article that ServiceTitan wrote.
Yeah.
There's zero chance they're going to remember that article that you wrote. They're going to remember, oh, I found this site Houzz, and I looked up some random article.
Right.
So like that, it's
right.
Flawed,
it's like advice from like people to people. It's like how to be friendly, or like how to get a date. Like just help this girl out, or like just say hi and like be helpful. Like that's good in your personal life. Like we're doing marketing. Like people are Googling things, right? And so just say what you are, and it doesn't have to be in some salesy way. We're not out here being like, don't use HomeAdvisor, Thumbtack, and Porch. ServiceTitan is better. Only use ServiceTitan. That is kind of like tacky. We're doing it in like a really sort of straightforward and mature and respectable way.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. You can also get the audio-only versions of these shows wherever you get your podcasts, and you can follow us at growandconvert.com/newsletter for any articles and updates for when these videos come out.